The rumble of engines filled the air, a deep, vibrating heartbeat of leather, steel, and raw power. 70 Hell's Angels were lined up in the garage, the smell of gasoline mixing with the faint scent of motor oil and sweat. The sun glinted off chrome, casting sharp reflections across the concrete floor as the bikers prepared for their afternoon ride. Then a small voice cut through the roar, fragile but urgent. "Wait! Don't start your bikes!" The room fell silent in an instant. Heads snapped toward the sound, and for a heartbeat, the sheer intensity of the biker's presence was interrupted by a tiny figure standing at the edge of the garage. A little boy, no more than 8, clutching a worn backpack, eyes wide with fear and determination. Hawk, wiping grease from his hands, leaned forward, incredulous. "Kid, what are you doing here?" The boy's voice trembled but carried unmistakable urgency. There's something under your bikes. Please, don't start them. You'll see." Ryder exchanged a sharp glance with Hawk, tension creeping into his posture. "Under the bikes? Are you serious?" The boy nodded vigorously. I'm serious. I was hiding behind the fence, and I saw it. You have to check before you leave." The bikers slowly dismounted, curiosity mixing with suspicion. The rumble of engines ceased, leaving an almost eerie quiet. Hawk crouched beside the nearest Harley, motioning for the others to follow carefully. "Show us," he said softly, but with authority. The boy led the way, small fingers pointing at shadows beneath the row of gleaming motorcycles. The bikers leaned closer, the metal reflecting the tension on their faces. And then they saw it, a bundle, carefully hidden, yet unmistakably dangerous. Hawk's jaw tightened, Ryder's eyes narrowed, and even the most hardened members of the chapter felt a knot of shock twist in their stomachs. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't misplaced trash. It was deliberate. Someone had left something under their bikes, something that could have caused unimaginable harm if the engines had started. The boy's voice quivered. I saw someone put it there. I didn't know who, but you have to be careful. Please." For a moment, the silence was heavier than any roar of engines. 70 men, each trained to face danger, were confronted with a reminder that even the most prepared could almost be caught off guard. The boy had stopped them, stopped 70 bikers from riding straight into potential disaster. Hawk exhaled slowly, placing a reassuring hand on the boy's shoulder. "You did the right thing. You spoke up. You stopped something that could have been bad. Very bad." The chapter bent closer, examining the hidden bundle. Shock and disbelief mingled with admiration. Here was a small boy, brave beyond his years, whose voice had prevented disaster. The moral weight of his actions settled over the room like a tangible force. Ryder finally spoke, voice low, a mix of relief and awe. "Kid, you just saved all of us. You know that, right?" The little boy nodded, eyes wide but relieved. I just didn't want anyone to get hurt." Hawk's gaze softened, the steel-hard edges of the biker softened for the first time that day. "You just reminded 70 men that courage doesn't come from size, age, or strength. It comes from doing the right thing, even when you're scared. And for that, you earned our respect." Engines stayed silent. The little boy's bravery had stolen the moment, leaving 70 bikers stunned, aware that they were witnessing courage in its purest form, innocent, urgent, and unflinchingly moral. The silence in the garage lingered like a held breath. Hawk signaled the chapter to spread out, each biker moving with precision, their eyes scanning the shadows beneath the row of Harleys. The little boy stayed close, gripping Hawk's leather arm, a mix of fear and awe on his small face. Ryder crouched beside the bundle, carefully inspecting it. The rough brown wrapping was tied with frayed string, the edges worn and dusty, but there was no mistaking the danger concealed within. Hawk's jaw tightened as he removed it, revealing the hidden contents: wires, a small timer, and an assortment of metal fragments that clearly weren't toys. The boy's voice trembled. I think they wanted to hurt someone. I saw a man running away after putting it there. I couldn't see his face." Hawk exchanged a grim look with Ryder. "Kid, you did the right thing. You saw it and spoke up. That probably saved a lot of lives. The chapter moved with calculated efficiency, laying the bundle on a metal table, and Jace carefully disarmed the device. Every biker leaned in, silently acknowledging the weight of what could have happened if the engines had roared just moments earlier. Micah, the little boy, watched from Hawk's side, trembling but determined. I didn't know if anyone would listen, he admitted. Hawk crouched, voice calm but firm. You did the hardest part, speaking up. Now we handle the rest. Ryder carefully examined the device, his experienced hands methodical. This was dangerous, deadly if it went off while one of us started a bike. Whoever left this planned carefully. But we're here now. That's what counts. The bikers fanned out to ensure the rest of the garage was secure. Even the youngest and quietest members checked the perimeter, confirming that no further threats lurked unseen. Every movement was deliberate, every glance protective, a living lesson in vigilance and moral responsibility. The little boy's wide eyes followed every action. I just wanted to help, he whispered. Hawk smiled, the hard edges of his face softening. You already helped more than you know. You reminded us that courage isn't about strength, it's about action, awareness, and moral clarity. Today, you made a difference. Ryder added, most people walk by, ignore the danger, or stay silent. Not you. You acted. That's bravery. That's why we protect each other, and why we stay vigilant. You helped us do that better today. The disarmed device lay on the table, a tangible reminder of what could have happened and what had been prevented. The bikers exchanged quiet nods of acknowledgement, silent gratitude toward the boy who had stopped them. Their engines had remained silent, their power contained, because one small voice dared to speak the truth. Hawk placed a steady hand on the boy's shoulder. You did what most adults couldn't. You paid attention, you acted, and you trusted us to respond. That's what courage is. And today, you reminded 70 men why we ride, why we protect, and why loyalty matters more than anything else. The little boy exhaled, trembling but relieved. For the first time, he felt the weight of fear lift, replaced by a quiet pride. He had faced danger in his own way, through observation, intuition, and courage, and had changed the outcome of events before disaster could strike. Outside, the sun filtered through the garage windows, highlighting chrome and leather. Inside, the chapter stood quietly, each man reflecting on the lesson just witnessed. Sometimes the smallest, youngest voices carry the loudest truths, and moral courage is not defined by size but by action. Hawk finally straightened, addressing the chapter. We follow through. We find out who did this, and we make sure no one else is at risk. Kid, you're coming with us. You helped us today, and now we make sure your warning leads to justice. The engine stayed silent, but the weight of purpose was palpable. The boy's courage had initiated a chain of action that would extend beyond the garage, beyond the city streets, and into the hearts of everyone involved. The chapter mounted their Harleys once again, engines muted but ready, a silent promise of vigilance as they moved through the city streets. Hawk stayed close to the little boy, guiding him carefully among the row of leather-clad riders. His small hands gripped the straps of his backpack, eyes wide as he took in the sheer scale of the response his warning had triggered. Ryder rode alongside, scanning the streets, his mind piecing together the path the culprit might have taken. We need to trace every step. Whoever left that device isn't careful, they want chaos, they want harm. And we can't let that happen. The boy swallowed hard. I think I saw him run toward the old warehouse by the docks. He had a jacket, grey, and he kept looking over his shoulder. Hawk nodded. Good. You're giving us the best lead we've got. Stay close. Watch and listen, but don't panic. We move smart, not fast. The convoy turned onto the cracked roads leading to the waterfront. The docks were quiet, the water reflecting the fading sunlight like liquid silver. Rusted shipping containers lined the perimeter, casting long shadows that could hide any figure. The bikers approached cautiously, each engine's rumble subdued, eyes scanning for movement. Split up, Hawk commanded, voice low but commanding. Ryder, take the east side. Jace, north. I'll go south. Kid, stay close, and remember what I told you. Courage is action, but safety comes first. The boy nodded, following Hawk closely as they approached a stack of shipping containers. A faint scuff of footsteps echoed behind one of the larger crates. Hawk signaled to freeze, then crept forward, the boy clutching his hand, heart pounding but steady. A shadow moved, quick, furtive, and unmistakably human. Ryder and Jace converged silently from their positions, surrounding the figure with precision. Hawk stepped forward, voice firm. "Stop right there. Don't move another step." The culprit froze, panic clear in his eyes. It was a man, disheveled, hands trembling as he held another small device, clearly intended to repeat the earlier act of sabotage. The man's gaze darted nervously, calculating escape, but the biker's presence was overwhelming, moral authority and sheer power combined. The little boy whispered, almost breathless, "That's him, that's the one." Hawk knelt slightly, looking the man in the eyes. "You've endangered lives. 70 bikers, one small boy, countless others. Why? What were you trying to prove?" The man stammered, voice cracking under the weight of fear and guilt. I didn't. I didn't mean for anyone to. I thought. I just wanted to scare them. I didn't think." Ryder stepped forward, expression hard. "Scaring isn't the point. People could have been killed. Innocent people. Kids. That's not just a mistake, that's cruelty. And you'll answer for it." Hawk glanced down at the boy. "See what happens when someone acts with courage and speaks up. You stop danger before it spreads. You changed the outcome. That's moral strength in action." The man slumped, defeated, as the biker secured him and called for law enforcement backup. The boy exhaled, relief flooding his small body. He had not only stopped disaster, but had also seen the consequences of inaction, and the power of speaking out. Hawk crouched beside him, voice soft but proud. "You did this, kid. You acted. You saved lives. That's courage, and you should never forget it." Ryder added, "Most adults would have walked by. Most would have stayed silent. Not you. You've seen firsthand how one voice, one brave action, can protect, inspire, and even bring justice." The sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long, amber shadows across the docks. The bikers gathered around, engines idling softly, a protective wall around the boy. Today had shown them all that courage is not about size, age, or strength. It is about acting when it matters, trusting your instincts, and speaking the truth even when it's hard. The little boy smiled faintly, holding Hawk's hand. For the first time, he felt the weight of his bravery and the moral responsibility he had carried alone. And he understood, in a way only someone who had faced real danger could, that courage could ripple outward, saving lives, inspiring action, and restoring safety in ways far larger than himself. The bikers fanned out across the quiet streets, engines idling softly as they moved with a precision that spoke of experience, discipline, and moral purpose. Hawk stayed close to the boy, his small hand gripping the larger, calloused one, as the city streets stretched out before them. "This isn't just about stopping one man," Hawk said, voice low but firm. "Danger can hide anywhere. Our job is to make sure the neighborhood, and everyone in it, remains safe. That's how we honor the courage you showed today." The boy nodded, small fingers tightening around Hawk's hand. I just want everyone to be okay. I don't want anyone else to be scared." Ryder smirked faintly, shaking his head. "Kid, you just reminded 70 men why we ride, why we protect, and why vigilance matters. Now we're showing the rest of the neighborhood that danger doesn't get the final word." The bikers moved strategically, checking alleys, securing open areas, and knocking on doors to warn residents of the earlier threat. Mothers and fathers opened their doors, eyes wide with or at the sight of leather jackets and chrome, but quickly relaxed when they realized the bikers came not to intimidate but to protect. Hawk gestured toward the boy. This little man here saw a threat that could have hurt anyone. He spoke up, and we acted. That's what protection is. It starts with awareness and courage. A neighbor, holding a trembling child, whispered, I never thought anyone would care this much. Thank you. Ryder nodded. Sometimes it takes one brave voice to move many. Today, that voice was his. The bikers distributed supplies, checked on vulnerable families, and set up temporary communication lines to report any suspicious activity. Each action was deliberate, combining raw strength with moral responsibility. The boy watched in awe, realizing that courage, loyalty, and action didn't just stop immediate danger. They created a safer, more caring environment. Hawk knelt beside him, voice softening. See what happens when someone speaks up. One act can ripple outward and change many lives. You're part of that ripple now. The boy's eyes glistened. I just wanted to help. I didn't know it would do so much. Hawk smiled gently. That's the thing about courage, it's never small. Every action matters. You taught 70 men a lesson today. And now, the neighborhood knows they're not alone. They have protection, and they have hope. The sun dipped lower, the streets bathed in golden light as the bikers regrouped. Engines rumbled softly, not with threat but with authority, a promise that safety and moral strength would remain, and that the courage of one child could inspire action far larger than himself. The little boy looked up at Hawk, voice trembling but proud. I feel like I can do anything now. Hawk's eyes softened. You already did. You acted, you spoke up, and you trusted us to respond. Courage isn't about never being scared. It's about acting even when you are. Remember that. Always. The neighborhood, once oblivious to the dangers lurking in shadows, now felt a newfound sense of safety and vigilance. And the boy, small but unyielding, understood the immense power of moral courage, the importance of speaking up, and the lasting impact of one brave action. The streets were quiet now, the tension of the day slowly lifting like a tide receding from the shore. The bikers gathered back at the garage, engines rumbling softly, a low hum of presence rather than threat. The little boy stayed close to Hawk, shoulders hunched with the weight of adrenaline and relief, yet a spark of pride flickered in his eyes. Hawk crouched to meet him at eye level. You did more than stop a threat today. You taught us all something about courage, awareness, and responsibility. That's what strength is really about, not muscle, not speed, not guns, but moral conviction. The boy swallowed hard. I just didn't want anyone to get hurt. I didn't know I'd make so many people stop and listen. Ryder leaned against a Harley, arms crossed, a rare softness in his eyes. Most people walk past danger. Most stay quiet. Not you. You acted. That's bravery, pure and simple. And bravery like yours inspires loyalty, action, and trust. Micah, a neighbor who had watched the earlier events from a distance, approached with her little brother, Jamie. Their eyes reflected awe, realizing that the bikers weren't just intimidating, they were guardians. Hawk motioned for them to come closer. See these men? They protect, they act, and they stand by people who need help. And you just became part of that circle by showing courage today. The boy's small voice trembled. I feel like I can't be scared anymore. Hawk smiled. You'll still feel fear. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting in spite of it. You acted when it mattered. That's the lesson. The bikers moved seamlessly, checking the garage and equipment, but also taking the time to talk to the boy and the neighbors. Every conversation, every gesture, reinforced trust, safety, and understanding. It wasn't just about preventing harm, it was about showing that moral courage, loyalty, and compassion could be active forces in daily life. Ryder placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. Remember today. Remember the fear, yes, but also the action. The power to act, to speak up, and to protect others is in your hands. That's what real strength feels like. Hawk looked around at the chapter, pride etched into his expression. We ride, we protect, and we stand for what's right. But today reminded us all that sometimes, the smallest voices carry the most truth, the most courage, and the greatest moral weight. The boy's eyes shimmered with a mixture of exhaustion and empowerment. He had seen danger, stopped it, and witnessed justice unfold. More than that, he had become part of a bond that went beyond leather and chrome, a bond built on trust, courage, and moral strength. As the bikers prepared to leave for the night, Hawk knelt one final time. You've learned the hardest lesson today, that courage is not measured in size, age, or experience. It's measured in action. You faced fear, spoke up, and changed outcomes. That's something no one can ever take from you. The little boy smiled faintly, clutching his backpack, feeling lighter yet stronger. For the first time, he understood that courage wasn't just surviving. It was inspiring, protecting, and creating ripples of trust that extended far beyond a single moment. The night air hung heavy with anticipation as the chapter returned to the docks, retracing every step to ensure the culprit hadn't left additional threats behind. Hawk guided the boy at the front, eyes sharp, every sense on alert. Even after the earlier discovery, the bikers knew danger often lingered where it was least expected. Ryder muttered under his breath, scanning shadows. This isn't over until we're sure. One device found is one too many, but there could be more, hidden, waiting. The little boy's grip on Hawk's hand tightened. I think he might have left another near the old warehouse by the pier. I saw him dropping something in the corner. Hawk nodded. Good memory. Stay close. Courage means acting, but it also means being smart. We move carefully. The bikers fanned out, engines off but ready. Hawk led the boy to the spot, revealing a second, partially hidden bundle tucked under a stack of crates. Its timer had not yet been triggered, but the potential danger was undeniable. The boy's eyes widened, fear mingling with awe as he realized how close disaster had been, twice. Jace carefully examined the device. This one's rigged similarly, but thanks to the kid, we caught it in time. Whoever did this planned carefully, but they underestimated vigilance and courage. The culprit, now apprehended by law enforcement who had arrived after the initial call, was being questioned nearby. His face reflected a mix of fear, guilt, and disbelief. He had intended harm, but the boy's quick thinking had altered the outcome entirely. Hawk knelt beside the boy. See what you did. You faced danger, spoke up, and we acted. That combination saved lives tonight. You have more courage than many grown adults, never forget it. Ryder added, and it doesn't end here. Being brave means continuing to watch, to protect, and to act when it matters. Today, you've done all of that. You've secured safety not just for yourself, but for an entire neighborhood. The boy exhaled slowly, finally allowing a small smile to break across his face. He had seen danger, acted despite fear, and now witnessed the consequences of moral courage. Lives saved, threats neutralized, and a community protected. Hawk looked around at the chapter, pride evident in his expression. Today reminded all of us why we ride, why we protect, and why loyalty and moral strength matter. Sometimes it's not us who lead the action, it's the smallest, bravest voices who show us the way. The bikers remounted their Harleys, engines roaring softly in unison, a symbolic heartbeat of protection echoing across the city. The boy watched, heart swelling with pride and understanding, knowing that courage, loyalty, and vigilance were forces that could shape reality, safeguard the innocent, and inspire others. Hawk placed a reassuring hand on the boy's shoulder. Remember, kid, courage is action. Loyalty is standing up. Protection is never abandoning someone who needs help. Today, you saw all three in motion, and you became part of it. That's a lesson no one can take away. The sun dipped fully below the horizon, leaving the city calm but forever changed by a single, brave boy who refused to stay silent. The bikers' presence faded into the streets, but their moral footprint, and the lesson of courage, lingered, stronger than any engine's roar. The streets had quieted, the echoes of engines and adrenaline replaced by a calm sense of security. Inside the garage, the little boy sat beside Hawk, legs swinging slightly, eyes wide but shining with newfound confidence. The danger had passed, but the lessons lingered, etched deep into his young mind. Hawk knelt beside him, voice gentle but resolute. You've seen what courage looks like. You acted when it mattered, You spoke the truth, and you stopped danger before it could reach anyone. That's more than bravery, it's moral strength." Ryder added, his tone steady, "Most adults would have ignored the signs. You didn't. That's why courage matters. Speaking up can prevent disaster, save lives, and inspire others to act too. You learned that today." The little boy's lips quivered with pride and relief. I just didn't want anyone to get hurt. I didn't think it could make a difference like this." Hawk smiled softly. It made a difference. One small voice can shift outcomes, guide actions, and protect countless people. You've seen firsthand how courage, loyalty, and vigilance can ripple outward. Never forget that lesson. The bikers mounted their Harleys, engines rumbling softly, a lullaby of protection rather than threat. The boy watched, feeling a warmth of pride, trust, and understanding. He had faced fear, spoken up, and witnessed justice unfold. And he knew that courage wasn't about size, age, or strength. It was about acting when it mattered most. As the bikers rode off, leaving the neighborhood calm and safe, the boy whispered to himself, a quiet promise: "I'll remember. I'll act. I'll protect too." True courage is not measured by age or size, but by action in the face of fear. Speaking up, even when it's difficult, can prevent harm and inspire others to act. Loyalty and moral strength create ripples that protect, empower, and transform lives. Protection is more than strength, it is vigilance, compassion, and responsibility. Even the smallest voice, guided by courage, can change outcomes and leave a lasting impact. Bravery paired with action reminds us that everyone has the power to protect, inspire, and restore hope.